Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, your paranormal portal podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together.
And welcome.
There, can you hear me? Let's put off my speakers down.
I hear you, sweetie. Everybody, we have tonight with us, hello chat, and everybody in here, and Uncommon Belief, and Jackie Kinnell. Oh, hi, sweetie. How's everybody?
Good.
Listen.
Can you hear me okay?
I got you, Jim. This is Jim Wyrick and Dave Haney of KSPS. These are my paranormal brethren. Are you not, my friends?
We are.
Yes, we just had an absolutely wonderful weekend, and if you were here with us on Monday Madness with Steve Stockton, you would have heard all the stuff that happened at the lovely, lovely place, Gettysburg. We all have our heart is a piece of it's in Gettysburg, is it not, guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we have talked so many times. We have been at a couple of bashes now, led by the wonderful Pamela and Steve Barry. Hello, everybody out there. Gettysburg Ghost Exchange and the marvelous brand new, well, not brand new. It's 100 years old, but it's brand new to us. The wonderful 1912 Hoover House. And you want to tell us a little bit about that, you guys?
Yeah. The Hoover House is considered a post-Victorian mansion. It was built in 1912. The original owner and builder was a gentleman named Ira Hoover. He came from a very philanthropic family in the area. This is Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. We're about 20 miles from Gettysburg. We're also about 20-some miles from the Maryland line. So it's in southeastern Pennsylvania, south central Pennsylvania, and anyhow, Ira had his wife, and they had one daughter, Eleanor. Unfortunately, all three of them had disastrous health issues that occurred within the house. After only living there about 7 years, Ella suffered what turned out to be a fatal blood clot. She didn't die in the house. She died at the hospital about a mile up the street. But she suffered that event there. About another 10, 11 years after her passing, Ira suffered a fatal stroke in one of the rooms of the house and actually died in that room. And then I think it was 13 years after that, their only child, Eleanor, suffered what turned out to be a fatal heart attack in the same room as her father. And she died in the house. All three of them are still there. Ella, the wife, she's more in the background, but she's there. Every so often she comes and adds her 2 cents. But very much Ira and his daughter are the head of some kind of controlling energies for the house, and they are just amazing at keeping negative energies out.
Amazing. It's an amazing spot. I mean, I'm trying to keep my mouth shut and just listen to you, but man, it's just, you get so excited about this house because the energy, chat, the energy is unbelievably welcoming, and just, you feel good there. It's not scary.
Yesterday we had a guest, a husband and wife from the Northern Virginia area. They were just coming up to look at Waynesboro. And so they rented a room for the night. And she has an interest in the supernatural. And so we had told her we were going to be doing a session last night if she'd want to join in. So my wife was there, Steve, myself, Jerry Swope, and this lady, and we joined in, and it initiated. First spirit there was my son that I lost in infancy, and we've had him sort of taking care of my son on the West Coast. He's dealing with some health issues on his own. Nothing new to report. but my son just wanted to come give me a hug. so anyhow, then this guest of ours, her mother, a sister, and a couple other relatives all came through on her. This is her first experience with any of this.
Right.
And, and we get a lot of constant truths that emerge from all of this.
It's amazing.
And so, and we'll address it if appropriate a little later. I'm still cautious the way I word it. As I had told you earlier, Steve and I were going to ask Spirit on a real serious nature concerning with world events and everything. We have some grave concerns about our country and where things are heading and threats to the country. Spirit was very open, talked at length. Again, you have to be real careful how you word this.
Right.
But needless to say, I would say the big message that I want to get out first and foremost is while there are some very, very serious designs against our country by a number of individuals, enemies and whatnot, none of that is etched in stone. In other words, whether or not it occurs, prayer has a big thing to do with it. So this is certainly a time for prayer warriors and light bearers to be involved, praying for the country, praying for people's safeties, pray for your own family's safety.
Right.
Very important time. And these things can have effect as to whether or not some of these occur. Another message that was very clear is you have to be very careful in these days whom you trust. Trust in the Lord, trust in the Holy Ghost, trust in dear friends and family that you know deeply. But outside of that,
be careful.
Be very careful.
Right.
Be very question almost anything that's presented. Question what I'm telling you tonight.
Right. And that's, we always say that, trust but verify, but also like the spirits are telling us basically at the house. So just to round it up, this house has been almost a beacon of light. And I had said that to you guys on your show, which you host every Thursday on Facebook and other places, and you can absolutely give those contacts. The doorway to the dead, and we talked on there, and I said the first thing I got was this house and what the group is doing with intent and heart. The Barrys, Pam and Steve, you guys, everybody that's connected with you guys that have seemed to be drawn to this light. The spirits are also drawn to this place, and Jim and the whole gang, KSPS, and the neighbors and people that have become regulars, let's say, in the living, are getting very familiar with the regulars that have crossed over. And the information that the spirits are giving us is not only just a message of love to their loved ones and people that might come through that need to be contacted, very smoothly, it seems like a lot of the barriers have been taken down. The normal, it moves so swiftly and fast, and it's just it just encumbers you. But you do through various ways, table tipping and mediums and people that come in there with abilities congregate in one spot, sometimes several times in different rooms at the same time, and get amazing. I've witnessed this myself. I've been a part of it, chat, and it's just such a connection so quickly, and it's all within the light. And you've got spirits helping spirits cross. You've got spirits connecting with loved ones with messages of hope and love and forgiveness, and it's like a tidal wave of spiritual love energy in that house. Do you guys agree?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
I opened up our session yesterday before we even attempted to contact Spirit. I had the crystal cross that you recently gave me, and I had it on Florence, the table, and I had an incessary prayer asking blessings on a host of people. We have a lot of dear friends and all that are undergoing health crisis. We also prayed for the Marines who recently lost their life, and for crossing for them, and just a lot of those things. You enjoy this. Spirit told me that your cross, um, just in the proximity when we do table tipping, if I'll have the cross there, it helps concentrate some of the powers that we're putting out.
How about
So
that?
they verified that.
Wow.
Um,
That's
and
awesome.
really, when we even got into some things, my wife was there. She always has a lot of questions. You could almost say like on a theology basis. Really fascinating. They got into last night the whole process of forgiveness. In other words, how those, even those that commit the most atrocious acts, are not beyond redemption.
Right, right.
That forgiveness, there's a very difficult two-prong effect. The one prong is the people that you've wronged so egregiously have to forgive you. And that's necessary
And it
for them to
connects.
be
Yeah.
able to gain the full light and love that they're entitled to. But then the other difficult point is, think of yourself, you're now in this area of perfect knowledge, warmth. You really know what love is really about. And so you really are quite aware of the, not only the atrocity you committed,
Yeah.
but the egregious nature of that atrocity. It's like a twofold effect.
Yes, and the ripple effect.
The ripple effect.
Yes, yes.
And how you've affected other lives
True.
with your attack on that life, and taking of that life. And in that process, you now have to forgive yourself.
Absolutely.
You can't cross into the light and receive the fullness of redemption and of the atonement of Christ without that very difficult two-prong. My wife's always been fascinated. The question a lot of people ask is like, even Hitler, could Hitler? Very, very unlikely. I mean, it's
Yeah.
talk about long shots.
Right,
I'm not saying it couldn't happen,
right.
but think of the
The
millions
atonement,
of lives.
the
Yeah, I
atonement
mean,
for
it's
that would just go on ripple forever.
you're right. The
Yeah.
toil of that almost seems like it would be an infinite toil
Yeah, it
to
would,
be able to
because
get to that point.
and we've learned over time too. I mean, we're jumping ahead here on the chat a little bit, but this isn't the first show that KSPS has been on. There's several other episodes in the YouTube where we've talked about what the dead are dying to tell us, and we all agree it's a message of love, of forgiveness. Sometimes it's confusion, and usually those are the earthbound ones that you have to go in and sit with. Am I right, Dave? I see you shaking your head.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Tell us
Because,
a little bit about that.
well, once you cross over, all those earthly emotions of anger or rage or sorrow or regret, all that goes away. And once you cross over, at least as far as we believe anyway,
Right.
everybody has different opinions, but the way we believe is once they cross over, they lose that that little piece of humanity that we have, that are our emotions. And all that goes away, and all there is love and light.
Right.
So they're come and tell us that, okay, because of you helping us at this session or at this location or your words or whatever, we went into the light, we crossed over, and you were right. All those human tie downs are gone.
They're shed off. They're like
Yes.
shed off. And some of them are harder to get rid of than others.
Absolutely.
And what Jim and Dave and, Mike Simpson, another part of KSPS, a wonderful investigator, a wonderful, I think he's got a wonderful way about him. The way he gives an investigation includes everybody, living and the dead. But everybody in here has their own way and their own ability. And again, I think spirit's the same way. Why wouldn't they be? So you've got kids helping other people cross over, adults and children alike. You've got, and they, they come back and forth, and it's amazing. Now you said, now there's Emma and Charlie and some others. Explain to the chat a little bit about table tipping and why each table has a name. It's because it has a spirit connected. That's their favorite table, correct?
You wanna start on that, Dave, or you want
Give
me?
us
to...
a little bit of that. Explain to the chat how that works a little bit, because it's become so familiar that you just sit down and you call that spirit, and they're like in charge of that table, and they'll bring other spirits in. It's amazing. Tell us about it, Dave.
It's I mean, I haven't bought any. Jim and Steve have cornered the market on hoarding tables. We've actually had to put a moratorium on purchasing tables.
That's so funny.
But basically, when they're in these antique stores, or I don't know, maybe there's an estate sale or something like that, someplace where these antique tables are, they'll literally just go up and just kind of put their hands on flat and just kind of commune with it and see if they pick up any energy. And if they do, then they immediately earmark that table. Okay, we're going to keep looking, but I want to remember what this one is.
Right.
And they'll go look around it, and a lot of times they'll keep getting that draw to go back to that table. I know I'm over here and this stuff is really nice, but I keep getting pulled back to that table.
Right.
So they'll go back, and sometimes with the vendor's knowledge, sometimes without, they'll kind of just, again, put their hands on and just kind of ask in their head, is there a spirit attached to this table? Is there an energy attached to this table? And they'll resoundingly get a yes. So they'll buy it and bring it home, and then we'll table tip with it. And the first thing we do is try to discern who is attached to that table, and if they have a specific message, and why are they still attached to that table. And then let them feel us out, our energies, our intent, our chemistry.
Right.
And then from then on, and we even asked them, what room in the house would you like to be placed in? Do you want things put on top of you, or you want to be left bare?
Right.
And the more we do that, and the more we familiarize ourselves with the energy attached to a specific table, then the more trusting they become of us and we become of them. And some of them, like Emma, is her specialty is the family members.
Right.
Some of them we seem to get a lot of pets with a specific table, or whatever the case may be. Some is old friends that you have passed along the way. And depending on
different energies, it's different energies and levels. It's amazing. Chat, I'm telling you, it's amazing.
And depending on the situation we're in, the guest that's there that wants to perform this communion with spirit tells us which table we need to use, because it may be they want to contact their grandmother or grandfather. Okay, well, we need to get Emma, or we need to get Florence. Right. Okay, well, this one, it's an old football buddy from college that they recently heard passed away last year, and they'd like to commune. Okay, well, let's go get Jag or James, one of these other tables. The Ram's Head table, that's very large and very, very heavy. That one does well with pets. So... it all depends on the situation.
It's amazing, and it's all about the energy that's connected to this table, or the spirit that's drawn through and attaches to that table. It may not have had one before. It might have been following you and saying, hey, okay. Very much like our Titanic experiment, where we're saying maybe that energy can follow that object. So, we've all heard about haunted objects. These objects really aren't haunted as per se, as I feel. It's more like that spirit knows what that table's going to be used for and stays with it until it's ready. And remember, time is different for them. And now this may all sound crazy, but I've done this myself. I told the story last weekend, and it sounds loony. In today's world, really, is it? You know what I'm saying? Why not spirit coming through to help other living and earthbound spirits? It's all energy, and you've got the right intent and the right. I think they helped you buy the house. I think they led you
absolutely
to the house.
They guided us to that. And I can give you an example of exactly what you're talking about. A few years back
in the chat, you're
when
connected. you want to buy that house and you can't understand why, and then things start happening to hurry you up and push you along and make you buy that house. And it's amazing. That's what happened in their case. It's incredible.
A few years back, when we took Haley to the Bel Air house for the first time, there was a spirit. The first time we encountered this, she was earthbound. There was a little girl named Emily Davis, who I consider like my fourth daughter. She helped me in great ways. Yes, actually, I loved Fringe. She helped me in ways that I could never repay her for. And that first time we made contact with her, we crossed her over. So when we went back years later with Haley for her first time, we had come in contact with the earthbound energy of a little boy. And his parents were also in the house, but they were on different energy levels and could not find each other.
Right. Yes.
And they're all earthbound because they're looking for each other. And what happens? Little Emily came through, and literally we got her on the FAFSA box saying, "I've got him," and she led him to his parents, and they all crossed over.
I've got them. Now think about that, chat. You're in the middle of this, and like I said, you might have, and it's all very respectful. You can't imagine having, like, say 15, 20 people, on a busy night, because I know the night I was there was a lot of people, but you wouldn't know it. Everybody was quiet and respectful and wanted to see what was going on, where. You had some upstairs talking, some down in the cellar with different tech equipment, and you had couple rooms using the table tipping. And I'm telling you, when you lay hands softly, now you use a sandalwood. Can you explain why?
There's several what they call essential oils. That sandalwood being one, myrrh would be another, frankincense would be another.
Yes.
There's various cedar. They're considered purifiers. If you think of holy works or works within a church, there's normally an anointing with oil. I know I'm LDS. We do blessings with olive oil that's been consecrated for that purpose.
Yeah.
So there's part of that. You're sort of like anointing the spirit to come through. So there is a solemnness, and it's also because of the purity aspect. It's a way we cleanse our hands in contacting the spirit. Melissa, the dog needs in. I'm up here in the kitchen.
You get the dog. This is a live dog, right, David?
Yes, this is a live dog, not a spirit dog.
Just checking, because I never know around you guys.
Yeah. If there's a Hoover house, it could be a spirit.
It could be, because, oh gosh, this is 3 levels, a beautiful house. And Dave gave me a wonderful tour of it. And, we're going through, it has all the original doors. We have extra doors downstairs with the old glass doorknobs. We have beautiful architecture and stained glass. We have different shaped rooms, like some have like the curve to them, and porches outside the bedrooms. These are absolutely beautifully done rooms, and the love that's been put back into it by you guys, and just cleaning the kitchen and scrubbing, and it's even got an elevator that goes up, 2 elevators that go up and down, the old-fashioned ones. So to sit in this house with other like-minded human beings and that quietly sit around the table and lay their hands on this table, and your sister did a wonderful job the night I was there.
Yeah, I was going to bring my sister and her husband. We found the tables have various powers. The power has to reflect upon the level that the knowledge base that the spirit connected with that table has attained. So it's not power like strength, but it is knowledge is power. So in that effect, and so Emma is sort of our top graded table. She resides with my sister in a home in Shepherdstown, and her husband. And with Emma, for whatever reason, my sister is the only person that can bring Emma through and let Emma do her magic. Again, we don't know why. We just, spirits sort of dictate certain things to us and we follow. Now they changed. Emma would used to not like any child. I'm talking about like a teenager, be on her. But recently, we had a situation where you were involved with that, where there was a child to be crossed over,
Tell
and
about
that
that.
child needed to gain trust.
Yep.
And so you got a bunch of old fart adults around the table. That child was looking at another child for trust. And
Right.
so Emma gave permission for this friend of mine's son to come to the table, and he was very essential in helping that child, ultimately be crossed over. And of course, Cisco was involved with that. One of the things we don't understand yet is we don't understand, or we haven't been told yet anything on the process of why the spirit gets incorporated in that table.
Right.
We all have strong sensations that work that's going forth is just that is an assignment, or that is that spirit's work from the other side of the veil.
It might well lift them in their energy. We've talked about that
Absolutely.
before on the show.
I think spirit gains out of it too.
How many times have we heard in your investigations, Dave, yours, Jim, together, and also I've talked about this with Mike Simpson, Mike Laciana, where they seem to, whether they're crossed or not. Now I've seen it with Earthbound. I've seen that. But I've seen it more crossed over visitation helping in the Earthbound. And like you said, some cases, they don't even, on different levels, Dave, and they can't even see each other, find each other. So you have to have somebody that helps link that energy together and they can see each other. It's because I believe, now this is a theory, but I believe that it's because they're on different levels where maybe the higher ups can go down and see. But that sometimes the lower ones, the lower vibrating ones can't reach up into the light until they're connected into it. And I think that's what we do with the tables and the crossings. Some need a little extra help, like little George maybe to walk them across, that is a regular at the house, a visiting spirit, a young boy. And then there's other spirits, and I likened it to the effect of we've all walked through the woods and seen a well-worn path, right? Well, people had to walk that path to make it well-worn and make it familiar and easy to follow. And I think the theory that I'm comfortable with right now is that spirits that come back and do this seem to make that well-worn path where whatever they're coming through, and they can connect in faster and bring others with, because you and I have been on multiple cases where we've had to call in those in the light to reach out.
Oh, absolutely.
To reach out. Yeah. You guys have had that recently, where you've had to call in other people to help get the energy off of that spirit. You want to tell us a little bit about that? You may not be comfortable using the names of the people that were there, but about the spirit and how we had to help get that off of them.
Yeah, we've had a wow. I mean, that week, just the week of the bash, that from probably Wednesday before the bash to the Monday after the bash, just in that span, I would say using various tables, we probably connected 20 parents to children, probably another 20 cousins or sisters or brothers to their relatives. And I think all told, maybe 6 crossings of individuals into the light. Maybe about 3 or 4 introductions of spirit guides.
Yes.
Which is new to us.
That's awesome, yes.
And throw in 2 or 3 pets in the mix. I think
it was like a paranormal potpourri, wasn't it, babe?
Yeah. And and typically, just so if anyone's unfamiliar, typically we will ask, we typically knock 3 times to just let spirit summon them that we're ready to initiate a session.
Right.
And we generally ask for the spirit connected with that particular table, if it'll come forward and then make, by moving the table, whatever, let us know it's in control of the table.
Right.
Once that has occurred, then we ask if there's a spirit present in the room that wants to make contact with someone either at the table or in the
In the
house.
room.
And they generally, at that point, we have a lot. Oftentimes, now we can only communicate with one spirit at a time. Sometimes spirits will be vying to be that spirit, and we have to ask one of them to back off
Right.
and allow. We try to get to all of them, but normally, then once we've connected with that spirit, we will ask the table to slide or move to the individual that the spirit wants to communicate with, and upon which the table will then slide over into that individual's. And then a lot of times that action forces the person actually sort of knows who the spirit coming forward is. I would say in over half the cases, that simple function provides the identity of the spirit. But if not, we will ask if it's male, female. There's a way we can go through and ask using the alphabet letters to identify. And normally, several people at the table will come up with the same individual.
Right.
Now, a lot of times it can be a little, because sometimes it's a spirit guide. So the person at the table isn't really aware, like maybe the guy's name's
Oscar.
Right.
And
I
he
don't
doesn't
know any Oscars.
Right.
Okay.
You
So
do now, it's a
sometimes
spirit
we're
guide.
sitting there trying to figure out whether Oscar is an old pet of the thing, some old friend he's forgotten, or indeed if Oscar is a spirit guide with
Right,
a
and
message.
that
to
happened while I was there. We actually introduced a spirit guide to an individual, and we went through it.
Yeah.
And we also found out that because of my, native upbringing with that, I was understanding of the fact that you get different spirit guides. You're usually born with one or two. Sometimes people have three. There's no set, but it's usually at least one. And then you get different spirit guides as you go on your journey in life. So you get specialists. Say you have a spirit guide that's really good with grief, or really good with, hardship or something like that. That spirit guide will come in and guide you, not pull you, but guide you, and as much as your free will allow them to. Because again, you have free will, and if you have to ask them to help you through this, guide me, show me a sign, do something. And once you keep doing that, like we talked about the well-worn path, the more you speak with that spirit guide and say, you have my permission to show me, because other than that, they can just give you subtle signs. But you'll get different spirit guides, and you might be only for a short time through that crisis time, or some other type time, an educational time, where you're learning and you have to study, and that kind of thing, an education student type thing, all different ones. And we had a gentleman who got introduced to their spirit guide, and at first we thought it was something, an old friend, and it turned out to be the spirit guide. I felt at the same time we were getting confirmation from the table, other people, sensitives, other people with abilities, all confirming that this was his spirit guide for this special time in his life. It's a beautiful thing. It really is.
And one of the craziest things
ahead,
about that whole thing is there's been several times, like Jim said, they're kind of pushing and shoving to be that one that comes through first. And on at least 5 occasions that I can think of, we're doing it in that one main parlor next to the bar. And we've had several sensitive psychic mediums, what have you, look into the parlor across from the foyer, and there's like it's like a waiting room. They're all hanging out over there, waiting in line to be the next one to come through.
It's the most overwhelmingly beautiful thing I think I've ever, and I've been a part of a lot. Where you go in, you're crossing, you're going to somebody's home, and it's a different feeling. This is like you're going into Grand Central Station for spirits, living, dead, and in between, that are helping each other cross. I mean, like I said, you've got, I believe, I was involved in something in the cellar, which was also another beautiful investigation, because you had Mike Simpson there was teaching everybody equipment, and you had everybody gathered in agreement for anybody who wanted to come through and talk. Wonderful. A lot of my family members were there, and new friends, and Mike Laciana, and Brandon, Jim, you were there, and I kept feeling something behind me. Now I swear I got a picture, but it could be a water stain, we don't know. But to have that mass there right where I was feeling it, I kept looking back. But see, this is what happened. And again, with KSPS, we're going to do one more. Imagine you're there on this paranormal investigation, and somebody's got the little box that has words that come up, right? What do you call that, Dave?
The ovalus.
Yep. And then you've got even cat toys that you can touch and move. You've got flashlights that they can just touch and turn on and off, if they want to communicate. Simple equipment like that. And then you've got the apps where you have the and the words come through. What's that one?
Oh, they're the FB7s and
Yes.
stuff.
Yes. So you've got
SB7s,
all of that. Plus, everybody's got their own individual equipment, like cameras or a recorder.
SLS cameras.
Right, all of that. And then you're bringing in your spirit and your intuition and your own abilities, and everybody's getting their own pictures in their mind, right? So at one point in time, and I told this story last week, but Jim was sitting right next to me. Well, two chairs down from me. I started to get a tickle in my throat. Then the tickle became a pressure, and then the pressure got more, and it felt like somebody was squeezing my throat from the inside, and I was coughing, and I think it was Jim hollered out, "Are you okay?" And I held up my hand, and I'm going, wait, because I was getting something. And Jim sat right back down, and he allowed it because I wasn't hurting. What had happened in my mind, I believe Jim was doing some kind of like an invitational, and you were saying, "You can trust us." And I got a young female energy that was kind of angry, but said, "I'll show you what happens when you trust the wrong person." And she showed me how she felt when she was choked. And it wasn't an attack. It was, "This is how I felt." And it wasn't the choking. It was the way she looked into that man's eyes and couldn't understand why she had trusted him, and now he was hurting her. And that's what she went out. But you think it's a horrible story as it sounds. And I was getting that. But at the same time that evening, we got her name. I was feeling that she was probably a lady of the night, someone like that probably around the time that the place was being used as a speakeasy, right, guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling that, and the box is picking up. She was killed outside. The box says Allie. And at the time, we might have thought she was being called Allie, but I was getting, no, she was choked in the alley. So it took everybody to put this together. And I talked to Jim the other day on the phone. I said, Jim, I got something else. And it was partial in a dream and partial that night that put the pieces together that was saying she wasn't even stuck. I don't believe she's stuck. I think she came back to help the guy who choked her because it was going to help her lift. And there's a perfect example of what Jim was saying earlier. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, no, well, like I said,
typical for Hoover House. Typical.
Yeah, I mean that sort of goes hand in hand with that forgiveness concept, and that advances us. Just as Christ forgave everything that was done to him, we're charged with having to forgive those who,
right,
who wrong us in the same capacity. So,
and it helps
because
us
she
in an
couldn't,
energetic way. It lifts them up and helps them.
She couldn't move on into a higher level until she got rid of that, I guess, resentment of him or anger with him or whatever the case may be. So by her going back and telling him, I forgive you, even though you did this to me, I forgive you, that has now expanded her consciousness and lifts her up to a higher level. And it helps him because maybe, I don't know the whole story, I wasn't there, but maybe it was a crime of passion or,
could have been anything like that,
right. And he immediately felt the remorse or regret afterwards and has lived with it the rest of his mortal life and now into his afterlife. And with her forgiveness, he can move on as well.
Right. Absolutely wonderful.
Just for anybody's interest, at the Hoover House, when you come, You can run your own equipment. You can, we have a bunch of equipment there you can use. We might be doing a table tipping session in one thing. You can, it's perfectly open to go down the basement, upstairs, whatever, to do your own session. Sometimes they'll break off. We never have it where it's crowded, where we're sort of, interfering with each other's sessions. Doesn't matter. I mean, the spirit can do the intense energy of the table tipping at the same time it can present itself in the basement. I mean, that's sort of a common occurrence.
It's amazing how it happens there. Like I said, it just seems like the energy is just so electric there, but in a good way, that it's made it so much easier for them to come through and do what they have to do. It's like they've found a way to avoid all the normal congestion and BS that normally goes on, because everybody's familiar. And if you guys bring somebody, like if you guys bring me in, they know you're familiar with me, and they kind of move through all the introductions and stuff too, because you say she's good, she's okay.
Yeah, we generally do vouch for our guests.
We vetted them.
Yeah, we vet. The only I'll say the only piece of equipment we use when doing the table tipping is typically we will run one EM pump. And the reason we do that is to help provide some energy. That's so that the sessions can be a little longer for the spirits, but also it takes less out of us. It sort of saves some of our energy.
It truly does, because paranormal hangover is a real thing. I'm here to tell you.
Yeah,
I was dragging for like 3 days, but I was also on a high of walking up here, because when you cross a child, I mean, we've been talking about for a year, Jim and I and Dave, and I've said, look, I'm going there to help a child, and I'm upstairs getting the best tour I ever had from Dave, because there's so much love in this house, and each room you've got the Holzer suite or room, you've got the Keystone room named after KSPS, you've got all these different beautiful rooms. They all have a theme, and you can rent each one of them. There's several for rent on Airbnb. Make sure you look up Hoover House. Look up Hoover House's page on Facebook. I think it's Hoover House, 1912 Hoover House. And I saw it on Airbnb too. The descriptions are all there. I guess Pam's got it.
She does her and Steve do an amazing job.
Amazing job.
Really do.
Yeah.
So look into it. You'll be able to see pictures of it and everything. But I was there. I was I was all over the place.
Now I'll come right out and say, if you're looking to get slapped upside the head by a negative spirit,
it's probably not going to happen.
Or terrified by a black mass,
this isn't the place for you.
Yeah, this ain't going to scratch your itch. It just isn't.
Because
but if you are really seriously trying to connect with and communicate with spirit on pretty much any kind of level.
Any level, yep.
Yeah, you don't have to be real experienced. I mean, we've had people who this would be their very first paranormal experience and walk away like, oh my gosh. And then we've had people that have been in the field for 20 years, but have never experienced something to this level. And that's something said. Our good friend Michael Laciana. I mean, Mike's done it all. He's a meticulous investigator, and for him,
his integrity is extremely high too. As is everybody's there, and I think that makes the difference. Truly,
for him, it's all about the audio. In other words, that's how he's always worked. It's about the audio. So we were doing a session. You were involved.
I was there.
And we had just finished with some spirits of the one family. Suddenly there was a spirit there. It wanted to talk to someone who wasn't at the table.
Right.
And then it came out and it wanted to speak to Michael. So here I am going upstairs and saying, Michael, he's with his friend investigator. I said, you're being summoned at the table. So he's like, he's a good he's a good sport, comes down. He's like, what the heck? So he gets at the table.
Next to me, chat.
Yeah. He gets, and then suddenly it's this old friend that he had investigated with for years. And he came through and identified his friend. And there were a lot of characteristics of this individual. He's sort of an unforgettable character. He wasn't any wallflower.
Right.
And he came through pretty bold, and he's communicating with his friend Michael. We had a couple laughs. There was some funny stuff.
And he's a good hugger. The way the spirits use the table to hug, it'll push against you and just squeeze. And I'm telling you, I don't care what kind of skeptic you may be, which is a healthy thing, but there's no way anybody's hands could be pushing the table or feet or anything else. This is a hug. The spirits found a way to hug, very much like I was hugged with the dowsing rods at Gettysburg. They find a way. And it was amazing.
For anybody who's skeptical about it, ask Kenny Biddle.
So anyhow, Mike will again recording everything, so he's got his recorder going and all that. And so we talked before he went home that evening. He was open minded. He said, that it was really neat. I don't have a lot of explanations for what occurred, but he goes, I'm open. So in there several times, he had asked his friend if he would leave a recording for him. That's to solidify for him
that's who he was in contact with.
Yeah. So the next day, I get a call from him. He's on his way back to North Carolina, and I get a call from him, and he's all excited. This is Michael, and here in the hallway, it's his friend. Yes. It's his friend coming through, and I think he said something like, "I'm pissed."
He did. That's what it was.
But he said, he recognized his friend's voice right away, and he knew that was him. And for him,
and that's
solidified the whole deal.
But that's even more powerful because it's very rare for you to get an EVP where the voice sounds like the person did when they were alive.
Sure.
Very rare.
Yeah, that is rare.
For him to recognize that voice, that's how powerful that event was.
And I think, too, because, Dave, you just said that, it popped into my head. Maybe that's, now you're thinking, you have a paranormal investigator that was good friends with another paranormal investigator, and their big thing was EVPs. This gentleman's specialty, also like Mike, was EVPs. So now you have a chance, think about the spectrum of this. You have a chance from the other side, and I believe Mike also asked him, have you learned anything over there that would solidify what you learned over here? And they said, and how was it over there? Is it as good as you thought it would be? And he said, better. That's what he said. And so now you've got him. He might have had to be pissed, that kind of energy ejected forward into that recorder to get that kind of energy and that kind of clarity and the voice sounding like that. Because often when we're at that level of being angry, it's almost like when the guy kicked the can on the subway in Ghost.
Yep.
Yeah.
He had to get mad to do it. And that's what I told Mike when he talked to me on the phone. I said, I don't know that he's really mad. That's not his constant state. I think he had to get pissed to give you that EVP as clear as you got it. That's my thought.
The funny thing is, too, like we might have, say, 5 people sitting at the table and some spirits presenting, and then all of a sudden, like three out of the 5, 4 out of the 5. Right. They'll all get the same image in their head, the same name or whatever. So
true.
I don't know how exactly it works, but I know between myself, very often we're hearing the spirits talking to us, and they're sometimes they'll clarify, like they might. The biggest thing is sometimes we inadvertently ask an ambiguous question. Obviously, you're asking questions where there's a definitive answer.
Right.
And if you build a yes and a no into the question, well, how's Spirit going to answer it? So sometimes Spirit will want to answer a question, but it doesn't know how to. So sometimes they'll sort of tell us how to rephrase it. Yeah. And also, this is a really neat thing. If it's real personal, and let's say it's raw emotion,
right?
You don't have to say it out loud. You can ask the question in your mind,
yes,
and Spirit will respond and answer. Now, we don't even know what you've asked. The only thing we will say is if the person has asked a question in their mind and we get a response, we'll ask them, did you ask a question?
And if they say yes, we'll say, was the answer correct? And
Yeah.
yes.
And, and then one thing Steve likes to tell people, we did this just last night. The lady, her mother came through, and so we said, do you know what kind of car your mother drove? And she said, yeah. I said, well, ask in your mind for your mother to tip the table when you say the car she drove. So in her mind, she's not saying anything out loud. She mentions so many cars, and finally the table responds. And so we said, well, that's a positive. Was that the car? And she said, yeah. Well, we don't even know what the woman's asked, but the table does.
The table understands, and that's just it. And the more connection you have with that loved one or that person that you're answering, because I was also there with my husband. My husband got to talk to his mother, and that's another life lesson. I mean, there's so many life lessons in this one episode already. If you just think it might match a question you're asking. I mean, how many times have you heard a medium say that? I might be answering this mother's question about a son that died in a odd accident or something. But if there's somebody else here, that question could also be answered for you, even though your loved one didn't come through and give you those exact words. It does help you to listen, because there's so many different levels here of how spirit communicates and how they come through and connect with energies, and different spirits have different specialties and it's amazing how they've done it. And they've picked tables, an inanimate object, and as nutty as that sounds, I mean, I was there, I saw it, I bet my life on it, I got connections. There's just no way to explain it. And sometimes the most beautiful things that happen in this world are unexplainable, but you feel that they're right. You feel that it's resonated with you in a profound way.
Well, that's what we ask people. Like, if, in other words, really, most of the people will ask, do you think you talk to your mother or your father? And almost instinctively, for whatever, the way they feel, the responses they got, sometimes the personalities that came through.
Yes.
They feel they were in contact with that loved one. And I guess there's three things that spirit constantly reinforces to us. And that is that life is eternal.
Yes.
Love is eternal, and that is the energy for light and everything.
Right.
And also that relationships can be eternal.
Yes.
And that includes your pets.
Right. Absolutely true. It's absolutely true. And, like you said, you had a table for pets, and you've had a cat come through and go through the lens of it. And I often say that a lot of times I don't think that the pet ghosts or spirits are stuck. They seem to come and go as they please, just like the spirits that you guys have made. And this is a short amount of time. Can you imagine where we're going to be with this a year from now?
Well, we do have books there. I'm woefully behind, I'll admit, but we try to document a lot of this, especially the responses we're getting. A couple things just to throw out there for interest to the audience. One of the things we found out is that when an addition's coming into the family, a new grandchild or something like that, that generally, whether it's a parent or a grandparent or some close family member that's passed, holds that child and cradles that child before it comes to earth, before it starts its mortal testing. And oftentimes we've had situations where there's a locking and a simulation of a locking at the table.
Yeah, or the table will.
Like a baby. Yeah.
Another thing.
One of the coolest ones we've done, and this was not involving table tipping, and we didn't realize it until after the investigation was over. We were up in the Holzer suite, and we were getting a lot of Phasma box activity and a lot of K2 hits, and the little cat balls were lighting up all over the place. And at one point, the Phasma box just starts spitting out names. John, Mark. And we're like, what? It spit out like 9 names, and we're like, that sounds so familiar. And then out of nowhere, it started praise him, testimonies, all these religious-sounding words, and all of a sudden we realized that's their name in the apostles. It was Good Friday.
was Good Friday.
And I'm not even a religious guy, and that blew my mind.
Yeah. And it's Good Friday, and you guys have forgot, weren't putting two and two together, and it started naming off all the apostles and all the different. It's
a
amazing.
voice came through the Phasma box, and it said, Pam, and we have an important message. And Pam said, what is that message? And clear as day, it said the tomb is empty.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear as day.
Hallelujah. I mean, that's something. And, and it's also, it's giving light in a dark time. And it's almost something that says, don't put out that light. We need light workers. We need this. We need
it's
this
really
so much. We need the light workers out there. And everybody in this chat is a light worker and doing their part and trying to keep the love light burning. And that's why this show tonight is so important, because the Hoover House, like I said, and I'll say it again because it bears repeating, I felt it. The minute I connected to it and I got that thing, this is going to be this place is going to be a beacon of light for the living and the dead, because the living go there, and when they leave, they feel so much better, because so many things are affirmed for them. That this is not it, and prayer works, and good high energy works, and light energy. There was nobody checking any religious cards at the door. There's every kind of belief system goes in and out of there, and every single one comes out feeling good, because it's about love, it's about energy, and that doesn't have any labels on it other than forever, and to help each other.
Your friend Kia here posted a question. And I would have to say that I guess I would say I personally feel the veil is very thin right now.
Yes, me too. I do too.
It's hard to say whether or not more activity, because I don't know how we could have any more. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've never hit a point where it's like, spirits, where are you tonight? And then I'll jokingly, it might be like a couple hours before we're having an open investigation at night, and I'll be in the bar area, and I might have the Phasma box on. I'll say, spirits, we've got company coming tonight. Hopefully you'll be willing and wanting to come communicate with us.
Right.
And then coming right over the Phasma box, it's like, we'll be here.
We'll be here.
It's like,
and
you, I don't take it for granted, but I wouldn't expect anything less.
I know, but it's easy breezy. That's the thing. There's no tension about it. You know how you guys fell right into it, because that's how you investigated anyway. That's how, not to say that you don't take seriously the tech, because you do. And that's, Dave and Jim, they absolutely take a care in their tech and their investigation and their checking of the EVPs and the tapes and the whole shebang. But we always joke that in 45 minutes in a good session, we'll get more evidence than a whole season of one of these other shows sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's true. And it's not boastful. We're amazed at the energy and the connection and the love. And they come together in that.
And I thank the Spirit each and every time before we do a session. And at the end of the session, I make it very apparent that we are very beholden to them for their willingness to come forth, to communicate with us. And we praise them. I mean, we really do.
Yeah.
And they, we have a very strong mutual admiration. They know that they will be respected, and in turn, I know that they will respect us and our guests.
Right, and it's mutual. And if the dead and the living can get along like that, maybe the living and the living have a chance.
Yeah.
But there's so much to learn, and you guys do that on your show too with Doorway of the Dead. And again, that's Thursday nights, is it not? Tell us real quick, in case I forget while we're mentioning it. Tell us where you can see that.
Well, right now we use StreamYard through the WLFE network. So when we go live on StreamYard, it goes to our Facebook page for our show, the WLFE page, WLFE YouTube, our YouTube. So it's like 6 different places that you can go and find it live. Jim and I have to discuss the show, actually, because with my new job, I'm on mandatory overtime. So I have to get up 3:30 every morning, including tomorrow.
Oh, gosh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. But So instead of doing it every Thursday, we're thinking
Okay.
of changing to every other Thursday, so we can get better guests, have more time to prepare, and have a better show. And we may actually change. Right now it's Thursdays from 8 to 10 p.m. We may change that for now to better accommodate my schedule, so I
Right.
don't have to get up on Friday morning and be dead for 10 hours. So
No pun intended.
none
Okay.
intended. No.
And Kia says, thank you, Jim. Things are heightened across the world at the moment. I agree. And I think in some cases, I was thinking that today, that almost like the spirits, like you were saying in the beginning, Jim, we discussed this a couple of weeks ago, where it's almost like they're not in a hurry, but they've kind of sped things up, and they're finding ways of doing that, like getting some of the people that are stuck, and also lifting the spirits of the living so that they can become into almost like a raising of their own consciousness, which is putting good energy back into the to the world. So it's all light worker stuff.
And
It's all
one
light worker work.
one other thing for us, at least at the house, the Hoover house, is that it was a private residence. It's been a nursing home. It's been upscale restaurant, but it has never been a place where paranormally inclined people hung out.
Right.
So for all this time, these spirits have been there in that building and have had no one to talk to, no
Right.
one to get their message to. Now all of a sudden, there's a group of people in there every day
Right.
that can see them or hear them or know how to communicate with them. And when that happens, you're in a blackout, and all of a sudden the light from
It
the
just comes on.
the light comes on from that tower on the side of the beach, that
Right,
lighthouse.
Right.
And so everybody
Light comes
around is
in.
now running to this place because this is where we go. They can hear us. They communicate
Right.
with us. We can get our message out.
Yes.
So, and you got to remember, we've only had this place since February.
That's what I mean. That's what
So,
I'm saying. There's no telling
It's
it,
going
a
to get
year from now.
so much bigger and better.
Absolutely will. And they're so good at the right people also being drawn to the place. It's almost like
Yes.
the spirits handpick. And I wouldn't doubt it. Because you've said that days before somebody comes, you guys will know about it. They know they're coming.
Yeah, and you can feel the energy revving up, and I know it's these, familiars coming in and
Yep.
getting situated. And I really beseech anybody. Again, I'm not here to grade anybody else's
Right.
what they're
That's not
seeing
the
or
point,
whatever,
yeah.
but I'm just saying one of our purposes is to get the full message out about spirit. We see a lot of the negative aspects
Yes.
from a lot of the shows, and that's more or less what they concentrate on. And people,
That's the Prince
people
Radio.
like to be scared and all that. I get all that.
Right.
But one of my purposes, and I know the spirits, I ask them directly if they'll help us in this work, and they signed on board with it, is to get out the truth about the true nature of spirit.
Right.
It really is something to help us in our life's path,
Right.
to help us be successful in our life's path, and to help others
Right.
in their life's path. And that's really our goal. So I really, if anybody can, if you're, if it's practical that you can get down sometime, just to even experience it once. I think
Right.
it's something that's somewhat unique. There's a lot of haunted places, but
Right. This is different.
it's different. It's different.
It's different because there's no agitation, there's no provoking, there's no
Yeah, we
nobody
don't.
negative
No,
is
we will
coming
put you out there.
in. Yeah, but
Yeah,
there's
we
no,
don't.
yeah, they
We're
don't
very
get-
selective.
Yeah,
We've
they
had a
don't put up with
number
that.
of the famous want to come in, and we're very selective
Right,
because
right.
I don't want a chance upsetting the spirit
Right.
with having someone in there that won't follow the beliefs we have along those things, and I don't want anything to restrain our spirits from being able to communicate. That's the bottom
Absolutely.
line.
And you don't know how that energy is going to affect them too, because think about when I almost said when you were living, like I'm talking to
Yeah.
who knows? Who knows?
I-
But the thing is like you don't want to. when somebody disappoints you, a friend disappoints you, you don't want to talk to them for a while, and somebody betrays your trust, you don't want to talk to them for a while, and spirits can also feel that way. So it also it's not only going to negatively impact them, it will put a speed bump in the road that the journey you guys got going. So it's important to understand that when you go there with love, and you can be amazed and get caught up in the wonderment and the love of it, but I'm telling you, the minute you walk in there, it kind of envelops you anyway. The love that you guys have put into it, and Pam and Steve, you could tell the house was loved before. I know it was a restaurant, has a little bar to the side, but somehow it all works. The beautiful antiques inside, they even have, and to my shock walking in, was the Titanic display, being from 1912, and everybody in the chat here is very aware of the Titanic experiment that we're doing, and I asked Dave and Jim to be a part of that too. Pseudonym in the chat here, this lovely mod has been dropping all your links all night in the chat, and all the other wonderful mods, thank you, and welcome everybody that come in the chat late. I appreciate it. You're always on time, honey. You're never late, so don't even bother saying that. I'm glad you're here. So that's the thing, though. You guys have this place, and again, you've done other investigations, and it's right in between Gettysburg. It's in Waynesboro, and it's like halfway point between Antietam and Gettysburg, is it not?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
20-some miles either way. Yeah.
Right. So you can go experience the battlefield during the day, have some nice food downtown, and one of these wonderful little quaint shops, and support small business, and and eat good food, and then you can go stay in a lovely bed and breakfast with these wonderful people and be a part of this. Now,
we've only had one Civil War soldier come through.
Okay.
And he was connected.
Unusual.
He was connected with the Battle of Antietam.
Okay.
And he explained, about where he suffered his mortal wounds and all that. Now, the town was not involved in any actual fighting during those campaigns. It was close by.
Right.
But the Southern forces did come right through Waynesboro on their way to Gettysburg, and Lee watered Traveler right in the main circle of town. And the Confederates held the town for about 10 days. The townspeople fled to westward and out into the woods and whatnot. So we added the Confederate soldiers' presence. It's just there was no actual battle. About 5 miles outside of town, there was some skirmish engagement. When Lee was retreating from Gettysburg, he had a line of hospital wagons 12 miles long, if you can imagine.
Yes.
And they crossed through, and at the tail end of that, there was Union cavalry and some forces that were, fighting to slow up his army and trying to get to him. So that's called Monterey Pass, and that's on the eastern part that's on the eastern part, about 5 miles outside of Waynesboro. So that's so I guess that's sort of logical why we don't have so much Confederate soldiers there. Spirits just really told me while we were talking here one big message that they would like me to convey.
Please do.
And that is that the battle of good versus evil is ongoing. It's not just on this side of the veil.
Right.
It's on the other side as well. Evil is a constant threat. And in that, while we rely on the integrity of spirit to be able to have valid communication and to be able to have a free exchange of ideas and learn, they are just dependent on us and our integrity and honesty in their being able to do this and to sort of wage their efforts against negative energies and
Absolutely.
stuff. So it's very symbiotic, this whole relationship. So we're not operating in a vacuum here. And we really, I think everyone connected with the Hoover house has learned that lesson. And
Absolutely.
The Spirit just wanted me to remind everyone of that. So it is very important how you conduct your life.
Yes.
And the integrity and honesty that you bring forth. And if you're willing to, if you're willing to keep yourself on that plane,
Yes.
Spirit is very open to communicating with you, and will give you truths to help not only yourself but to help your loved ones as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely true.
If where we're located, if you go in any direction, you hit a major Civil War event. You had burning of Chambersburg to the northwest. You had Monterey Pass and Gettysburg to the east. To the south, you had Antietam. Further south, you had Harper's Ferry. I mean, we're surrounded by it, and they're all within driving distance. And if you're not into the paranormal, that's fine too, because on each end of the main road, follow it one way or the other, you're going to hit a ski lodge. And if you don't want to pay the exorbitant prices to stay at the lodge, you can come stay with us and then go skiing for the day.
Absolutely true.
But
yes, we're 17 miles in either east or west direction from a ski lodge.
But one of the things we've noticed is not only do the spirits of the house want you to feel peaceful and comfortable there, but they'll check on you. Holly Cataldo, our friend, she was staying with us, and she was sleeping in the Primrose room, I believe it was, and woke up at like 4 a.m, just feeling something was a little off, and she woke up to find a little short African-American woman standing at the foot of her bed in period dress. And so she said, "Can I help you?" And this woman said with a little accent, "Oh, no, honey, I was just checking to make sure you were okay," and then vanished. And we believe that was Elizabeth, who was the, I guess, the maid that worked in the house when Eleanor passed.
Right.
So they check up on you, make sure you're doing okay.
It's all right.
It goes so far beyond wanting you to be comfortable.
Absolutely. And Kiwi Patriot here is reiterating something, I believe, to what Jim said. In the case of Daniel prayer, the prayer was heard in heaven, but it took the angel 21 days to fight their way to Daniel. So what he's basically saying is he's confirming everything that the spirits are telling Jim and everybody else is in that house. When we were there was a light and an energy, and I know I keep saying energy, but that's the only way to describe it. It's just you feel lifted and you feel connected to the love, and the love that's in the room among the living, total strangers helping each other in the most emotional time of their lives, some of them connecting with loved ones and past loved ones and mothers who've passed and children who's passed, and coming together to help a stranger. Again, how many times on this podcast have I told the story of strangers coming together to help a complete stranger on the other side? And yet we hesitate to help each other here while we're alive and, argue and fight so much with those that we love. And I think they're also trying to tell us that, even if you disagree with a loved one right now, so many of us are, basically, arguing or come to a impasse or, a standoff with loved ones and just not talking because we're not feeling the same way. Go back and think of these battles. I want you to think of this chat, and I want you to pass it along, because I just spent 3 days on a battlefield where we lost 53,000 men, young boys, old men, people, townspeople fighting, giving everything they had, their last full measure of devotion to fight for our freedoms right now. And you think 150 years ago, and here we are, it's almost like the spirits are going, no, not again. You cannot do this. So we're going to have to find a way to be a little kinder, a little more forgiving, a little bit more able to look away. You might not have to change everybody's mind, but if we cannot get to that fever pitch again, where we're brother against brother. The price has been paid, and I stood in that cemetery at Gettysburg National Cemetery, and I promised these guys again, we will not forget what's happened here. And I made my husband stand. I said, if you get out and walk and stand in one spot, stand where the Gettysburg Address was said, half in National Cemetery and half in the Green Cemetery, where it was spoken, how they will not long remember what is said here, but they will remember what was done here. So let's remember that. And as angry as we get, and as much as we both feel like we're fighting for our rights, You know, as they said in Gettysburg movie,
Right.
fighting for my rats. I don't know what that's all we really want. We all just want to take care of our families and love each other and have friends and pay our bills and go to work. And really, everybody really wants that once you get down past the madness. And I think the spirits are here trying to tell us that. What do you guys think?
No.
Wholeheartedly
yeah.
agree. Speaking of which,
You got to go to work?
I
Yes.
got to go to get
Thank you.
some
Thank you.
hours.
Thank you
So,
so much. Good night, Dave. I love you so much, my brother. It was so good to hug you and
Absolutely.
to spend some wonderful time. You go get some sleep. Congratulations on the new job.
Thank
and
you very
get
much.
out of here. Me and Jim will close her out.
All right. Take care.
Love you, baby. Okay, it's just you and me, buddy. Is there
Okay.
anything else you'd like to say? You have a wonderful chat here. Everybody agrees that this sounds like an absolutely beautiful place. And
Well,
you know,
Cisco's an amazing lady. My wife got to meet her for the first time. I think my sister Jennifer, that was the first time she got to meet you and stuff. So there's a Cisco fan club here. Boy, what are we getting?
yeah, that was awful. Hey, mods, take care of that, would you? Go in there, just block them. You know, some people don't understand. You see, this is the kind of evil that tries to get in, and we just ignore it and just go do your thing. But take him out of there so he doesn't mess up this chat. Thank you. Go ahead, Jim.
Wow, yeah. Well, I'll tell you.
Yeah, see all this? Just block
Look
them.
at that.
See this
Good
kind of
heavens.
evil?
Oh my heavens!
Okay.
Yes.
Bye-bye. I'm sorry that you.
Wow.
My goodness.
Some real yahoos got on here and just all kind of crap.
Yeah, just block them.
Yeah,
out.
I don't know.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Sue. So go ahead. Don't let that interrupt your.
No, I'm good. I want to personally thank you, Cisco. I'm a very strong empath, and some days the weight of the world really does fall on me. Through this last year and a half or two with COVID and all that, there were days that I'd wake up, and I mean, it was like you didn't even want to get out of bed, and you're like, what's going on? That's not me. And I realize I'm just sort of realizing all the anxieties and fears and all that of the world. So you're amazing. You pick up a lot on that in sense, and I get a call, you know, and you'd be like, I sense you're in distress. You know?
Right.
You're about right, Sherlock, you know.
Yeah,
and so,
it's just, but the connection's there. It's that well-worn path between friends, and you know, and it's not. I think my people get in contact with your people. I've said it so many times, and it's absolutely true that they get together and connect us and say, hey, you know, Jim needs a hug or something like that. You know what
but
I mean?
everybody find a way to ground yourself and keep yourself strong. I know I use a number of the various minerals or crystals.
Right.
Super
Yes.
7 is an amazing energizer for me, and obviously there's a lot of minerals, crystals you can use that block negative energies. I use, when I'm connecting with spirit, I use Moldavite. It allows me sometimes to actually see the people that I'm connecting with. It really allows me to hear them more often than not. But with all those, you know, it see if it speaks to you directly and receives you. I think the stones, just like the tables, call on us individually. Sometimes the minerals and crystals do that as well. But and then sometimes just having your feet on the ground, getting in a lake, something with nature. It's really important to keep yourself strong, and you have to have a spiritual base. You really do. If you really find your spirit is so weak and diminished, prayers are essential. And ask for the Lord to bless you and strengthen you, to know that someone's always got your back. And these times more than ever, we need that, because
Absolutely true.
we truly are dealing with a lot of evil in the world, and it is very destructive, not only on a personal nature, but it destroys families. Another, I will mention this real quick. one thing we've often noticed at the house. Now, people will come in. I don't know them. I've never met them before. Sit down at the table, and it really is alarming how many families have suffered a personal loss through this opiate crisis.
Absolutely true.
A cousin, a child, whatever, has lost their life. And it comes through so often. It's really heartbreaking, but almost instinctively, the person whose life was lost, they didn't mean to take themselves out. They were in a bad way. They didn't mean to die. And on the other side, they're fully aware of the impact that their decision has had on so many. Wow, I'm really getting some strong feelings as I'm saying this right now.
I know, right?
Wow, but they and the overriding theme is they want forgiveness. And they oftentimes come through to connect with that family member so that they can have that forgiveness and be reconnected with their family. So I just throw that out. If you are a person who's had such a tragic loss in your life or among friends, please be open to that forgiveness. I mean, a lot of times people are very angry at what that individual's done to their family or their life or whatever. And they fully are aware of the selfishness in it and that. But let me tell you, when I said I don't know that I've ever had a spirit come through in that sense where they are not genuinely remorseful for their actions,
right?
And they're actually begging forgiveness. So it's important for us because we in this case we're the catalyst. We're the ones that can still act on that. So just be aware of that for everyone. Sometimes people can't on this, and then I'm not judging them. It's
right.
Sometimes they just
some
feel
people are mentally ill, and some people are, are paid and think that they can do anything behind a keyboard, and they're not responsible. But I'll tell you that you are responsible for your words and for your thoughts and for your actions, and you will pay for it on the other side. It's like I often say, the guy who jokes and laughs at the sharks and says, they're nothing, but one day you're going to wind up in a boat that might sink, and you're going to be in their territory. Because when you go on the other side, it is very much like, I think, like Ghost, and the ones that crossed over walked into the light, and the other ones were drawn down by this dark. And I think that the dark masses that were pulling them down weren't only just negative, but all the negative things that person had done. It's yourself that pulls you back, and you're going to have to pay. And there's comeuppance.
Funny you mention that movie Ghost. I think there's a lot of truth in that movie.
There is.
Somebody was really connected.
Paying attention. Yes, I believe so. It's so true. And just the same way as you see that scene where she's got everybody around her waiting for a chance. It's just like Hoover House. Everybody stand around waiting, and the strongest energy is going to get through. But I'll tell you, you stay at the table, and the people at the table shift. One person comes in, one leaves. I mean, when we were crossing Carla, just to reiterate, I was minding my own business, and I knew I'd been there for something, but you don't really know where you're going if you just leave yourself open to where you're being called. You just wait for that time. And Jim comes up and grabs me. Cisco, we have a child at the table who needs to be crossed. And I don't remember anything other than the chair being open and me sitting in it and asking everybody at the table, okay, what do we have? What kind of, where are we at right now? And they told me, and as soon as they started connecting me to that energy, I'm seeing her. I'm seeing not so much facial features, but what she was giving me was more like her light and almost like a glistening kind of shape. And she could lean in as she started to trust me and listen. She kind of leaned in a little bit. And when she did, the table leaned in too, like to say yes, was her yes, like tip yes. But then she also started to hug with the table. Like, I'm saying things like, I know you have, some trust issues. I understand. I had some too when I was young and, trusted the wrong people. But you also had love. Can you remember the love? And the minute we started connecting into it, just like the soldiers on the battlefield or anybody that Jim has been a part of crossing or anybody else, when they start connecting into that warmth again, you've got them and you can't let them go. You just got to keep showing them that your light and your love from you, and it connects in. And that's when I believe I had to, since she had been so young, I think I remember somebody at the table saying, no, she didn't. And I'm like, yes, she's connected into it. So it was a pet, it was a younger sibling that she loved, and a nanny that she hugged. And I just remember what it felt to be hugged, and that feeling. And the next thing you know, everybody in that room, again, all strangers to this little girl, put all their love and all their love energy into helping this little girl feel that warmth and that love again. So that ought to tell you that was enough I said, remember how the sun felt on your shoulders, in the summertime, and in your hair, and that warmth. And I said, now open your eyes, turn your head and look towards the light, and open your eyes. And she saw the light. At that moment in time, she could connect into that. And that's when we said all of her angels and her loved ones, that nanny or siblings, people that loved her, reached in and pulled her, and she went, and the table just rocked back and settled, and she was gone. That's what Jim sees all the time. I saw it there, and I've experienced it in other places, but I've never experienced this with such an ease and such a welcoming and such a, like we said, a well-worn path with the help for the spirits, Emma and the others around, and more than likely probably everybody's spirit guides and everybody else's loved ones too.
Yeah, it's
amazing.
It's and particularly these times. I know our church, like many, we weren't able to meet in our actual chapel area for a long time because of the COVID. And finally, I believe it was sometime in April, we were finally able to have a meeting back in our chapel. And so my wife and I had actually been asked to speak that particular Sunday.
Uh-huh.
And so we were prepared. And as I came into the chapel, oh my gosh, what a wave of energies. I know some of it was just the joy of being able to meet again in the name of the Lord in the chapel. But more importantly, we had lost quite a few members, not some to COVID, but other to cancer and other diseases in that period. And they were such strong spiritual people, and they knew we were going to be there, and they were waiting for us. And so as I walked into that room, there were at least maybe a half dozen good friends that I had known that had left us, and they were there to greet us. And oh my gosh, it just hit me like a tidal wave. And I started getting real emotional. And I'm like, guys, I got to pull myself together. I'm supposed to speak. Mm-hmm. And so finally, when it was my turn to speak, I got up, and I knew before I said anything, I had to acknowledge two things. First was how blessed I felt we were to be able to gather again in the Lord's name and praise Him. But also, I told the congregation, there's a lot of us bright lights that are no longer with us on this side, mm-hmm. and they're here today, and they want you to know how much they love you and support you in your daily life. And I said, a lot of these people, we had members who went out of their way for years to help these people fight their cancers and take care of them. And overwhelmingly, those spirits wanted me to express their gratitude to the members of our congregation that had done so much on their behalf. Once I got that message out there, spirit backed off, and I was able to give my talk. And at the end, I talked to our bishop's wife. I said, I'm sorry. I hope I didn't offend anybody, but I had no choice. Spirit made me pass that message along. And she said, Jim, we were all thinking that's,
Yeah.
she said, that's fine. But I wasn't ready for that. That was
It's
probably,
overwhelming.
that was as strong an energy field as I've encountered in any investigation. And I really applaud everyone involved in this field because so many people don't realize how integral the paranormal is. There's really nothing about it. It's really the normal
It's
field.
the normal, and that's absolutely,
Yeah.
and and the supernatural. It's natural, but it's super. It's like extra. And I'd love to say thanks to all the chat who jumped in. And see, that's just it. You fight evil and negativity with love, and just rebuke it, and boop, there it's gone. And hello to Conflict Radio and Kia. Thanks
Yes,
love for being here. Kia has a great question, Jim. If you want to,
absolutely, and this is something we ask our spirits at the table. They tell us constantly that energies from other worlds are here and they're amongst us today. Mm-hmm. But even more important, and this is pretty exciting, is that when we go on to our other realms, we will meet and integrate with those energies from other worlds. Mm-hmm. So we're not consigned to just our small little, whatever. Right. We will actually come to gain the knowledge and understanding from those individuals of other worlds. So Kia, your question is spot on. Right. And that's been affirmed to us on numerous occasions.
Numerous, yes.
Yep.
And we say it all the time, Jim. It's all connected because you have people like when we have Sir Brian Bowden on, and friends of him, and he was also visited to the house and had wonderful experiences. He's going to be on another week or two to talk about his, viewpoint of the whole thing, vantage point, which is wonderful. But that's the whole thing. Is everybody keeps saying, Bigfoot people don't want to talk about UFOs, and UFO people don't want to talk about cryptids, and Bigfoot, it's all over the place, but it's all connected. And time after time, we've had spirits come back from the other side, especially talking about any kind of reincarnation, that says that one of the most wonderful messages that I've ever heard back was, if you're in your spirit group, now think you're in a soul group and you're up there and you've got this knowledge and you go, I want to go back for one more shot just so I can go back in and learn more and go through this and get this perspective so I can raise my conscious higher. And they say that you don't have to choose Earth, but those who do are considered automatic heroes, because this is such a hard place to reincarnate to. Now, why would the dead, after, from the other side, the crossed over, the ascended ones, come back and say something like that? Because it is all connected. There are, what a terrible waste of space, right, Jim?
Yeah.
There's other dimensions, there's other levels, there's other planets, there's stuff that we haven't even thought of, there's portals and back and forth. So as soon as you open up to that, if you're not ready for all that, concentrate on the love, because that's a number one message, that we're all connected as energy, and the love lasts forever. Does it not, Jim?
With Kia's, and I do appreciate that question, Kia, and I throw this out to any of your audience. If there are questions that you would like us to ask of the tables,
there you go.
By all means, go on our Keystone State or either our Keystone State Paranormal Society page,
okay,
or even on the Hoover House, the Start 1912 Hoover House page. And if you'll just say, Jim, please ask this question or whatever, right, I'll certainly, I don't know if there's a week goes by that we're not doing at least one or two sessions. Right. And I certainly will ask those questions, and I'll tell you what Spirit tells us. Like in all things, there's some things that
they won't say.
Mm-hmm. and they're cool with that. I mean,
mm-hmm. It's like,
and then, so often someone might have a loved one who's suffering and maybe they're terminal, mm-hmm, and the people love to find out, they're very, very hesitant to try to put any kind of timeline on that, because I think that's the Lord's call. You know,
It is, and it's
so
also up to the people too, because
it is.
we've
It
said
truly is.
It's easy to get caught up in all of the, the minute stuff, and you start micromanaging your thoughts, because of course you're going to be worried about, can I get to work? Can I do this? Or am I going to get sick? Or am I going to have enough food? Or am I going to, my neighbors and this and my family and the arguing and the, the stuff. And if you can pull yourself above that and just look at the whole thing, it's spiritual warfare, dark to light. You fight the dark with the light. Again, just like we did in the chat, evil tried to come in, and again, that's probably not evil. That's probably a negative person that's getting paid 50 cents a comment to throw off good conversation and, messages of love and hope. Plain and simple.
And this brings up, just thank you. I'm Spirit's throwing a couple add-ons in my head here. One other thing we have asked and had verification on numerous equations is, a lot of times you always see, especially with Facebook, people asking for prayers on someone's behalf. Prayers work. They explain to us that oftentimes your family members might be around you. And maybe you're in a distressful period. Maybe you're dealing with a health issue. Maybe you're dealing with a financial crisis.
Right.
They're around you and they want to assist, but oftentimes they need, I guess, call it a catalyst or something.
Right.
And so sometimes they're limited as to what they can specifically do. Prayers sort of unleash the potential for your family members or spirit guides or whatever, the various minions that have been charged for your behalf. Prayers open that up. So that prayers matter. They truly do. And we've had that constantly reinforced to us. So there is truly great power in prayer.
Absolutely. And light, as just like Pseudonym says, light always overcomes the darkness.
Yes.
It's hard when you feel like you're in the dark to even see your own light sometimes. But I'll tell you, if you, just like that little girl, Carla, when she just remembered what it felt like, it came to her automatically. The warmth came back to her. And this was a little girl. We failed to tell you that I believe they found out at the table before I arrived that she was from about, I want to say, early on in the house or close by. I don't believe she was a member of the house. But she was close by. And a young sibling of hers, she was supposed to be watching, I think fell down the stairs and got killed. And her mother, who was suffering obviously from some kind of, malformation, either some of the psychics there were thinking postpartum depression. She had just had another child. She had several. But anyway, she snapped and went crazy, and to punish this little girl, she drowned her in the tub. I believe she was between 8 and 9 years old, and she obviously had trust issues. And I think you're going to start finding, too, that you're going to have themes in the house as well. Like we had the trust issue problem with the little girl who didn't want to cross because of that. And then we had the trust issue in the cellar the same night with the lady of the night who was trusted someone who killed her. And I'm sure if we talk to everybody in that house, you'd probably come up with one or two, because it seems like when you get on that energy, okay, everybody's got trust issues up front, let's go.
Right.
They come forward. But that's the way I think it is in a lot of ways, because you connect into that energy. And just like you'll have a ghost connect into somebody's energy because they're both depressed or both sad or both got left at the altar, or how many bride stories have you heard where somebody else comes through and helps? So there's so many things like that, and I think you'll find more about that as you go on and you fine tune this, because you guys are almost like at a full speed ahead on this, and everything is just happening so quickly and just forming itself really around you guys too.
Well, we had, and for us, every week seems to bring a unique experience for us. We had just recently, a good friend and his family was down there. This was an initial foray for him into this aspect of the paranormal, very experienced individual. And we had a victim of the Holocaust that presented, and we were able to pass that person into the light. And when I tell you, that we literally started from a point of zero. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine the absolute distrust, revenge, anger, everything, just overwhelming that this person's life was snuffed out without a second thought because of that just horrible time. And yet, with the help of angels and Lord's minions and whatnot, uh, we were able to get that spirit to release all of that horror and negativity and to start to feel the warmth. And almost everybody at the table had a vision as that,
Yes.
as the light came to that person and as they felt love, as they were able to release the abandonment. Everybody was having their own personal kind of vision of what was going on. My wife, bless her, she was never involved with this stuff. You know, she was
Right.
tolerant, but we was never involved in this. We did all this investing. Once we got into doing table tipping, she's generally on board because she's real big into genealogy and that.
Yeah.
She's had spirits come through and thank her for the work she's done in that field and
Connecting people
bringing
here.
families together. So so far we've had so many people who were never really involved in the paranormal per se, but once they start feeling these energies and this light and the positive aspects of it, you want to work in it. And we would truly feel privileged and actually humbled
Yes.
that I guess right now I sort of view it as a calling.
Yes,
And,
absolutely it is. And I think we're all feeling that, Jim, in a lot of ways over the past years. We've all felt a calling to find out first, reconnect with the light that's within us, our divine spark, as was said
Yeah.
in Killer Angels, in Mike Shera's books. If you've never read them, there's Killer Angels, there's Gods and Generals, and then there's
Yeah.
Last
Oh,
Full
yeah,
Measure.
amazing.
The Last Full Measure. And both Gettysburg, the movie, and Gods and Generals was based on those books and done in Gettysburg and the outlying towns. And so much of that, again, harkens to this time of what's your divine spark, so many had those speeches, and those speeches were taken from journals that they wrote. The young men.
Yeah.
It was very, very common to have a journal and write down daily, even if it was just about sharing an apple with one of the other soldiers or something. They would write about it. Profound statements and the wording they used then, and the verbiage, and there were such wordsmiths to explain everything. Not like today, where everybody can just take out words and put emojis instead of the emotion. They expressed emotion with their words and their just the way they wrote, and even the writing, they took like some honor and some in the writing and the way they their penmanship was. It all meant something. So when you think about these words, they're not uncommon from things we're feeling today, 150 years ago. And again, 53,000 men in 3 days. Antietam, just as horrific. And in every direction.
I'll be right back. I'm just going to plug in my power cord. I got to
Sure,
live
go
that
ahead.
thing. I'll be right back. You
Sure,
go ahead.
In every direction, there's a battle like this. And again, we kind of feel like we're in a battle now of, we're definitely in dark and light. So, excuse me again. He's got to leave, and I got a tickle in my throat. It's great, right? but the thing is this. It was hard for them to find it too, and to get the strength to lift one more foot to do that battle. And, they weren't hardened soldiers. Some of them were just tired and wanted to go home, and were so far away, and they marched everyone, and they marched back, and it wasn't easy, but they kept up the fight because they felt what they were doing was right. And they were, thank goodness we were able to preserve a country afterwards. I think we can learn a lot from 150 years ago, and it's a simple thing. Do unto others, the way you would have done to you. Your rights, and they don't end where yours begin, but they collide And if they don't go together, then that's where that's where yours stop and mine begin. And to, like I said, people just want to live and pay their bills and love their families and the pursuit of happiness, right? And so many of these crossed over spirits go through so much just to come back to tell us that much. Love never dies. Forgive each other and forgive yourself, right, Jim?
Yeah, and I want to thank everybody who pursues the paranormal with a noble heart, because it really is that important. We all have various gifts. Combined, we are mighty. Nobody has the whole package. I mean,
Right.
there's some psychics that are just amazing what they have and possess. And there again, people don't realize the average psychic medium's life ends about 8 years shorter than most.
It takes so much.
It takes so much, and yet they're willing to do it.
Yes.
So there's sort of a nobleness in that.
Yeah. Without
and
ceasing.
And to many of the people involved in this, it may just started out with a curiosity or a mild interest, but once your eyes have been opened, they just can't be closed. You really get to know the truth, and I really I hope everybody has choice experiences and is able to grow and develop whatever energies they have, whatever psychic talents they have. And we really truly help one another. There's a lot of drama in the field, we all know that. But there's also a lot of love and mutual admiration. And I want to salute everyone who really pursues it with an honest heart and just for the sake of knowledge.
Absolutely. And just, like we've said 1,000 times, a lot of times we just want to know what's next, or is there something next. And I think that Jim and I, and if Dave was here the same, we would all tell you, we just spent weekends with thousands of people who believe, yes, there is, and there's absolutely, and you are responsible for what you do here. So if you can kind of forgive and let go, and maybe if you feel yourself getting angry, understand that you're just hurting yourself. You can have conviction, and you can have, stick-to-itiveness and drive and intestinal fortitude, but, you don't have to hate to get there. You can love to get there, because I've got as much conviction of winning this. I just envision that, the world's already won. God's already won. Nature's already won. The animals don't give up. Something I want everybody to look at too, I've noticed lately, Jim, I didn't get to tell you, but I think the animals are doubling down. My ducks are having more than one litter. They're having,
Wow.
last count is 3. The birds are having more, and I'm wondering if nature isn't making up for some we're losing in these wildfires and these hurricanes. And,
Oh gosh, I know.
Think about it. Why wouldn't nature, why wouldn't the world
Sure.
try to heal itself through nature? And, they're not giving up. The squirrels are still collecting nuts and building nests, and the birds are still singing. So I suggest we do the same. I think we keep living and keep providing, preparing for tomorrow and enjoying today. And remember that love never dies, and what you do here counts. So keep
Absolutely.
plucking away, keep breathing in and out and loving.
Well, invite anybody who happens to be down in the area. Like I said, the site has a phone number. Nat, Pam, and Steve live there, and in one of the rooms, and they do just a wonderful job. She's one of these like B2B hostess with the mostest, or whatever.
Yes, she is.
But I couldn't do this with. I wouldn't even started it without them being able to run that. So, open invitation to anybody who wants to examine part of this that probably you haven't had exposure to before. I think you'll find it very rewarding. And if anything, the more we learn, the more questions we have.
Absolutely, because the bullseye keeps moving, don't it? As soon as we get it figured out, they pull a switcheroo on us and add more.
And that's for
It
sure.
happens all the time. But this has been a lovely conversation. I cannot thank you enough for spending the time, especially since the power week you've had. But we just had to get you on while it was all fresh, and what a wonderful time it was. You know, and that's the bash, the Gettysburg Bash again. Stephen Panberry and a bunch of good volunteers put it together.
Good to meet a lot of your regular audience, and thank you for the questions. And again, if you have specific questions you would like us to inquire of Spirit in our sessions, I think I might even get the guy who runs our page or internet page. I may even get them to put something on that where people can pose questions that we can ask.
That would be wonderful, and ask the tables.
That would be a good idea. So for the time being, if you'll contact us through our Facebook page, I'll be glad to ask Spirit and relay that information along. Always a pleasure, Cisco. Thanks for all your help.
You know I love you, sweetie. And too, Jim, you took this time, but so many people in the chat were uplifted. So many people listening to it tomorrow and catching it on the replay is uplifted. So that's it, folks, right there. If you can find a way to just inject that light and the hope and, and also the intrigue of how fascinating and wonderful this all is, and I hope it lifted you all tonight. I feel like in the chat you guys really were. Thank you, Jackie and Edna, and all the wonderful mods. Laura, hello, and everybody. Conflict is here, and Carolina Cryptid is here. Thank you so much for coming in. They love you, Jim. They want you all to come back, and he will. He's a good
pleasure,
friend.
and then hopefully in our travels, I'll get to meet you all too. Very much. You always have a open invitation here. So everyone, stay well, take care, and
stay positive.
Absolutely. Love you all.
Love you all so much.
Have a good week and a good evening.
Yep, we got a little outro here, and off we go. I love you all. Keep your feet under the covers. Keep your closet door shut. Because
Take care.
There are things that go bump in the night.
Good night.
Bye, everybody. Good night.